So after the agent has made his or her determination of what is correct or incorrect, the taxpayer gets an opportunity to submit a protest letter. And in the protest letter sent to the agent who made these findings, the taxpayer then outlines what he or she believes are incorrect determinations. The agent can then say, you're right. You're right. I made a mistake. In 26 years, I've never seen an agent say, you're right. I made a mistake. So although that's the intent of a protest letter, effectively that
it doesn't
yield an admission of error.
Well, let me stop you there. Is that because they never make mistakes, or they are just not willing to acknowledge when they have made a mistake?
I'm going to say, well, I think tax is complex. I'm going to dodge that one. Tax is complex, and everyone can make errors, including judges and IRS folks.
Sure.
Everyone can make errors. So I think it's inherent on all of us when we're called out and we're told, well, you made an error. It's hard to step back and say, let me think about that. But that is the intent of a protest letter, to say, well, you made an error. Here's where you made an error. The most typical response is no response. They're going to reject the protest letter. And then it goes to where the protest letter then seeks further review. And that is the Office of Appeals.
Okay.
Rather than a revenue agent, now a different government official for the IRS is assigned, who is called an appeals officer. And an appeals officer for the IRS has a very different function or mission statement, whereas a revenue agent is supposed to find errors and make determinations that are correct. Yeah. An appeals officer is not in that category or role. An appeals officer looks at both sides, much like a settlement officer. And the function of an appeals officer is to look at both sides equally, favoring neither side, and saying, if this case were to go to court, who has the better argument? They're weighing the positives and the negatives of both. And the function of the appeals officer is to essentially clean out the system so that there's less litigation in the courts, clogging the courts, and saying, what can I do as a settlement officer to weed out and determine what's unnecessary to go to court?
Like what mediation that we have in civil court. Yeah,
exactly. So although the IRS appeals officer has an IRS badge, is an IRS employee, they function as a mediator.
Okay.
A paid mediator by the public to resolve conflict that should not go to litigation. So they'll weigh the positives and the negatives, and then they, unlike the revenue agent, can make a settlement offer. They may say, Kirsten, I've looked at what the revenue agent put in his or her report and the authorities and the elements that they say is deficient. And I've looked at your protest letter, which is your side of the story, and the facts and where you've identified problems and the legal authorities supporting your position. And based on looking at both sides, I believe that there are hazards for you and hazards for the government. And therefore, I'd like to offer you a settlement.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Absolute Trust Talk Live. If you enjoyed listening in, then don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen by searching Absolute Trust Talk. While you're there, we would also love for you to leave us a review. And then why not share your favorite episodes with family, friends, or colleagues too? You can find all of our shows and corresponding show notes by visiting absolutetrustcounsel.com. You'll also find a variety of other free resources, including our ebooks, videos, blogs, presentations, and more. If you need help with your estate planning or administration, we also offer a free discovery call to help get the process started. You can find more information on booking your session by visiting absolutetrustcounsel.com/scheduling. Don't forget to keep an eye out for our next live episode. If you join us for the broadcast, you can submit questions during the show. But if not, don't worry. You can always get in touch with us by sending a quick message to info@absolutetrustcounsel.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.